Throughout the Western world, the end of the Napoleonic Wars brought an end to a period of global war and revolution, and the start of a new era of rapid economic growth. For Americans, the end of the War of 1812 released the rapid growth of cities and industry and a torrent of expansion westward. Years following the war also marked a notable advance of democracy in American politics. Property qualifications for voting and office holding were abolished. Voters began to directly elect presidential electors, state judges, and governors, and voting participation skyrocketed. In addition, the antebellum era saw a great surge in collective efforts to improve society through reform. Rapid territorial expansion also marked the antebellum period. Between 1845 and 1853, the nation expanded its boundaries to include Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Texas, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. The United States annexed Texas in 1845, partitioned the Oregon Country in 1846 following negotiations with Britain.
The Civil War grew out of long-standing tensions and disagreements about American life of politicus. For more than 80 years, people in the northern and southern states had been debating the issues that ultimately lead to war. Sectionalism, slavery, state rights, and election of 1860, and secession, the five main contributing factors of Civil War. Slavery and the status of African America were at the heart of the crisis that plunged the U.S. into a civil war from 1861 to 1865. The role of slavery in bridging on the Civil War has been hotly debated for decades. In 1890, slavery was introduced to Virginia. African slavery was central to the development of British North America, with tensions of a fever pitch. Harriet Beecher Stowe published her novel Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852, describing the atrocity of slavery lives. In 1854, passage of Kansas-Nebraska Act invoked the concept of popular sovereignty, which gave the people of each territory choosing to pursue statehood the right to decide whether or not to allow slavery. Pro- and anti-slavery factions turned the Kansas territory into a bloody battleground.
The gap between the North and the South grew after the American Revolution before the Civil War in 1861. While Southern states grew more committed to slavery, industrialized Northern states gradually passed laws freeing those who had been held in slavery. Many Southerners came to view slavery as a linchpin of their agricultural economy and as a justifiable social and political institution.
A fundamental economic difference between the North and the South regions of the country existed before the Civil War. Growing abolitionist sentiment in the North after the 1830s and Northern opposition to slavery extension in the new Western territories led many Southerners to fear that the existence of slavery in America and thus the backbone of their economy was in danger. Republican Party formed in opposition to slave states.
Abe Lincoln ended up winning the election of 1880, becoming the first Republican president on a platform pledging to keep slavery out of the territories. 7 slave states deep in the South seceded and formed a new nation known as the Confederate States of America. The incoming Lincoln administration and the majority of Northern people refused to recognize the legitimacy of succession. They believed that it would discredit their democracy and create a falling society that would crumble into several small countries.
For 40 years, attempts were made to resolve conflicts between North and South. The Missouri Compromise prohibited slavery in the northern half of the Louisiana Purchase. The acquisition of vast new territories during the 1840s reignited the question of slavery in the Western territories. The Compromise of 1850 was an attempt to solve this problem by admitting California as a free state but allowing slavery in the rest of the Southwest. But the compromise included a fugitive slave law opposed by many Northerners. The Kansas-Nebraska Act proposed to solve the problem of status there by popular sovereignty, but this led to violent conflict in Kansas and the rise of the Republican Party. The Dred Scott decision eliminated possible compromise solutions to the sectional conflict, and John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry convinced many Southerners that a majority of Northerners wanted to free the slaves.
In the decades before the Civil War, Northern and Southern development followed increasingly different paths. By the 1860s, the North contained 50% more people than the South. It was more urbanized and attracted more European immigrants. The Northern economy was more diverse into agriculture, commercial, manufacturing, financial, and transportation. In contrast, the South had smaller and fewer cities, and a third of its population lived in slavery. Slavery impeded the development of industrial and cities and discouraged technological innovations. Nevertheless, the South was wealthy and its economy was rapidly growing. The Southern economy largely financed the Industrial Revolution in the United States and stimulated the development of the industries in the North to service Southern agriculture. The Civil War in the United States began in 1861 after decades of simmering tensions between the Northern and Southern states over slavery, states' rights, and westward expansion. The war between the states, as the Civil War was also known, ended in Confederate surrender in 1865. The conflict was the costliest and deadliest war